I never meant to stay this late. The cafe had closed an hour ago, chairs stacked upside down on tables, the smell of espresso clinging to the walls. Outside, the street was empty except for a flickering street lamp and the drizzle tapping against the glass. Inside, only the two of us remained, me wiping down counters I'd already cleaned twice, and her sitting at the far booth, a half-empty cup of tea cooling in front of her like she'd forgotten it existed. Her name was Julia. Mid-40s, maybe a little older, hair pulled back in a way that seemed careless but wasn't. She looked like she'd had a long day she wasn't ready to go home from. I'd seen her here a few times over the past month, always alone, always staying until the staff started closing. Tonight she caught me watching her reflection in the window, and didn't look away right away. "You don't have to keep the place open for me," she said finally, voice low and even. "It's fine," I murmured, running the cloth over the same spot. "I'm just killing time." That wasn't exactly true. I was 23, still finding my footing after college, working shifts here until something better came along. But lately, her presence had become the reason I didn't rush out the door. There was something about the way she held herself, like she was holding a secret too heavy to put down, that pulled me in. She pushed the cup away, fingers lingering on the porcelain before she let go. "Killing time is dangerous," she said with a faint smile. "You never know who you'll meet." I tried to laugh, but it came out softer than I meant. "I think I've already met her." She glanced up then, eyes steady on mine. It wasn't a flirtatious look, more like she was checking if I understood the risk in my own words. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. "You're too young to be saying things like that," she murmured. "And you're too beautiful to be sitting here alone," I replied before I could stop myself. My hands gripped the counter, knuckles whitening. Her smile didn't fade, but something flickered in her expression, a flash of regret maybe, or longing. She looked down at her hands. "Flattery at closing time, dangerous territory." We didn't speak for a while after that. Rain streaked down the window. I kept wiping counters I didn't need to wipe. She stared at her untouched tea. In the quiet, my pulse hammered so loud it felt like part of the room's soundscape. When she finally stood, she didn't reach for her coat right away. Instead, she came to the counter close enough that I could smell rain in her hair. "One night can't hurt," she said softly, not quite looking at me. "But sometimes one night is all it takes to change everything." Her words hung between us, heavier than the smell of coffee grounds. I opened my mouth to answer, but the doorbell chimed, a sharp, unexpected sound in the empty cafe. She turned her head toward the door, eyes wide. I stayed frozen behind the counter, not sure if the ringing meant we'd been caught or if it was the start of something we couldn't stop. The chime from the door still echoed when I looked up. It wasn't a customer. Just the delivery guy, dropping off milk for the morning shift. He gave a nod, wheeled the crate past me into the kitchen, and disappeared again. The door swung shut, leaving only the hiss of the rain and Julia standing a few feet away from me, arms folded like she was suddenly aware of what she just said. She tried to smile. "Looks like you're not alone after all." But the line landed flat. Her voice was thinner now, almost brittle. I wiped my palms on my apron. You sounded serious just now." She looked down, fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. "I shouldn't have said that." "Forget it." I didn't answer. My heartbeat had slowed, but the weight of her words hadn't left. She finally exhaled and sat back down at the booth, shoulders slumping. "Do you ever stay somewhere longer than you should? Just because the quiet feels safer than going home?" I slid into the seat across from her before I could think better of it. "All the time." Her laugh was small, but it cracked something open. "I used to come here with my husband," she said, "before it fell apart. This was our spot after the kids' games, or after work when we didn't want to cook. He moved out 2 years ago. I keep ending up here anyway." She twisted the napkin between her fingers, a tiny white rope. I hesitated. I'm sorry. I didn't know. There's a lot you don't know, she said gently, eyes flicking up at me. And you're what, 23? You shouldn't be listening to a stranger's divorce story. I shrugged. Strangers don't usually make me forget to breathe. That stopped her. She stared at me as if she wasn't sure she'd heard right. Then she looked away, cheeks coloring slightly. My son's your age, she whispered. That's how wrong this is. The words hit like cold water. I'd guessed the age gap, but hearing her say it, her son, made it real. I rubbed the back of my neck. I know what it looks like. I searched for something that wouldn't sound like a line. You feel like someone who notices when a person's drowning. For a moment neither of us spoke. She set the napkin down, hands trembling a little. The rain outside had turned heavier, running down the glass in blurred rivers. Then, slowly, she reached across the table. Not a full gesture, just her fingers resting halfway between us, palm down, like an invitation she wasn't sure she should give. I didn't think. I let my hand slide forward until my fingertips brushed hers. It was nothing, a whisper of contact, but her breath caught. She didn't pull away. The cafe felt even smaller the next night. Rain again, but heavier, slapping the windows. We hadn't spoken since that brush of fingers. I'd replayed it all day at work, trying to decide if I should apologize or pretend it never happened. Julia was already there when I came in from my shift. Same booth. Same untouched tea. She looked tired, but her eyes flicked to me the moment I walked in, then darted away as if she'd been caught staring. I busied myself behind the counter. You're early, I said, keeping my voice light. Couldn't sleep, she replied, eyes still on her cup. We moved around each other like actors on a stage, careful not to bump, careful not to start something we couldn't stop. But the space between us had changed. Every movement felt louder. Half an hour in, the door opened again. A man stepped in, shaking off an umbrella. Mid-50s, business coat, familiar in the way strangers sometimes are. He scanned the room, saw Julia, and stopped dead. Her shoulders stiffened. Tom, she said under her breath. He walked over slowly. Didn't expect to see you here. His eyes flicked to me, taking me in, lingering a fraction too long on the apron and the age. You never answered my messages. I'm not doing this now, Julia said quietly. I drove across town. You're here with... He tilted his head at me. What is this? Nothing, she said quickly. It's nothing. My heart thudded. I suddenly understood why she looked so sad, why she kept coming back to this place. Divorce papers or not, there were still loose ends. I'm closing up soon, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Tom ignored me. You don't need to hide, Julia. Not from me. He lowered his voice. Not from the kids. That word, kids, hung in the air like a warning. Julia's eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, they were wet but hard. Go home, Tom. He stood there a second longer, then turned, slammed the door on his way out. The bell's jingle felt sharp as glass. We stayed frozen until his footsteps disappeared. Then Julia exhaled, shaky. He still thinks he can walk into my life whenever he wants. She wiped at her eyes. I'm sorry you had to see that. You don't have to apologize, I said. I hesitated. I don't want to be another mistake for you. She looked at me then, really looked, as if weighing whether to run or reach out. Neither do I, she whispered. For a heartbeat, everything tilted, the rain, the silence, her breath close to mine. She leaned forward just a little, and so did I. Our foreheads almost touched. Then she pulled back abruptly, stood up, and grabbed her coat. I can't, not here. She started toward the door. At the last second she stopped, turned back, and brushed her fingers against mine as she passed. A flash of contact, gone before I could react. And then she was out into the rain. I'd been telling myself not to go to her house. All week since that night at the cafe, since Tom's intrusion, since Julia's touch at the doorway, I'd tried to stay away. But I ended up walking the long route home, past her street, past the small white house with the sagging porch light. It was late. Her curtains glowed faintly, a lamp burning somewhere inside. Rain slicked the pavement, sticking my hair to my forehead. I stood there too long, like an idiot who couldn't decide whether to knock or leave. The door opened before I could move. Julia stepped out onto the porch in a sweater and bare feet, like she'd been expecting someone. Or like she'd heard me. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Her voice was tired but not surprised. "I know." My hands were shoved deep in my pockets. "But you didn't come to the cafe this week." "I couldn't." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Tom's been circling. My son's been asking questions. People talk." I took a step closer. "Is that why you're hiding from me?" She gave a soft, humorless laugh. "I'm hiding from myself." The wind lifted her hair, plastering it against her cheek. She brushed it back, fingers trembling. "You're too young for this. Too young for me." "It's wrong, it doesn't feel wrong," I said louder than I meant. The sound of my own voice startled me. "I think about you all the time. I try not to. I swear I try." She closed her eyes as if the words were a blow. "Stop." But I couldn't stop. "Do you know how hard it is to watch you pretend we're strangers when we're not?" Her eyes flew open. "Do you know how hard it is for me?" She snapped back. "I lost everything. My marriage. My family's respect. I won't lose what's left of my son because of a boy who thinks he's in love with me." I flinched at the word boy, but it only made the pressure inside me spike. "Then tell me to go. Tell me this meant nothing." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Rain drummed on the porch roof. Her shoulders rose and fell once, twice. Finally she whispered, "I can't." The space between us was a live wire. I stepped onto the porch, so close I could see the rain caught on her lashes. She didn't move away. "I don't want to be a secret you regret," I said. Her hands came up then, palms hovering near my chest like she was about to push me or pull me in. Her breath was unsteady, lips parted as if she were about to say something she couldn't unsay. And just as she leaned forward, headlights swept across the porch, a car slowing, stopping at the curb. Her eyes flicked to mine, wide with something like fear. Neither of us moved. The car's headlights washed over us like a searchlight. Julia's hands dropped from my chest. I turned, heart hammering, expecting Tom again. But it wasn't him. A compact sedan rolled to a stop at the curb, windshield wipers thudding. The driver's door opened, and a young man climbed out, hoodie up against the rain. His face was shadowed until he stepped under the streetlight. "Mom?" he called, confusion cutting through the drizzle. Julia went pale. "Evan," she whispered. He was her son. The son she'd warned me about. My stomach dropped. Evan jogged up the walkway, glancing between us. "Why is he here? What's going on?" His eyes sharpened on me, reading more than either of us had said. "You're the guy from the cafe." Julia's hand fluttered at her throat. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Evan demanded. "You texted me you were staying home. And now," he swallowed hard, "are you with him?" I opened my mouth, but Julia spoke first, voice cracking. "No. I mean," she stopped. Her shoulders sagged. "I don't know what I'm doing." The rain hissed on the porch roof, a curtain of sound between us and the street. Evan's jaw clenched. "I trusted you," he said to me, low and sharp. "I told you about my mom's divorce." About how bad she's been. And I didn't plan this, I blurted. I swear. Julia turned toward her son, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. Evan, please. But he was already backing down the steps. You're both unbelievable. He yanked his hood up and strode back to the car. The door slammed. The engine roared. Headlights swung wildly as he pulled away, spraying water from the curb. Silence crashed down. Only the rain remained. Julia gripped the porch railing like she needed it to stand. He knew you, she murmured. I wiped at my wet face. He comes into the cafe sometimes. I didn't know he was your son until. Her laugh was short, almost a sob. Of course. Of course, that's how this unravels. She turned, leaning against the wall. I told myself one night couldn't hurt. That I was allowed something human. And now my son thinks. Her voice broke. I stepped closer but didn't reach for her. What do we do? She stared at the street where his taillights had vanished. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know if there's a way back from this. Her eyes met mine. In them was devastation, but also a strange, reckless spark, as if losing control had freed something she'd been holding back. She reached out then, fingertips brushing my wrist, a tremor running through her. We can't stay here, she said softly. Not like this. And before I could answer, she stepped off the porch into the rain, leaving me with the echo of her touch and the empty street. I found her at the park 3 days later. It was the only place I could think of. The benches were slick with rain, the playground empty except for a forgotten plastic shovel. Julia sat under the bandstand, a paper cup cradled in her hands, looking out at nothing. She didn't seem surprised when she saw me, only tired. I thought you'd hate me, I said quietly as I approached. She shook her head. I don't hate you. Her fingers tightened on the cup. I hate myself for thinking I could have something simple. I sat down on the edge of the platform, not touching her but close enough to feel the warmth of her shoulder. Evan hasn't been back to the cafe. I tried texting him. He didn't answer. She closed her eyes. He won't. Not yet. The wind rattled the tin roof above us. My heart thudded with all the words I'd rehearsed. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But I don't regret knowing you. Her eyes opened slowly. You should. You're young. You'll recover. This will be a story you tell someone someday, about the older woman you almost... She stopped herself, looking away. I swallowed. Almost isn't what I want. She laughed, a brittle sound. You still don't get it. This isn't a romance novel. My life is messy. My son hates me. My ex is circling. I'm a walking red flag. I don't care, I said. You make me feel like I'm more than a kid trying to prove something. And I think you feel it too, even if you won't say it. Her shoulders rose and fell once. Then she put the cup down, hands trembling. You're right, she whispered. I do feel it. And that terrifies me. For a moment we just sat there, rain dripping from the roof, the park smelling of wet leaves. Then she turned, eyes glassy. If we do this, it's not a secret. No sneaking, no pretending. And if Evan never forgives me, if I lose him for good. She broke off, voice shaking. Are you ready for that? I didn't answer right away. I thought of Evan's face, of Tom's eyes narrowing, of all the things I didn't know how to fix. Then I thought of Julia's hand brushing mine that night, the look she gave me before pulling back. I'm ready to stop hiding, I said finally. Something in her cracked. She reached for me, fingers sliding into my hair, forehead pressing against mine like she was steadying herself. We stayed that way, breaths mingling, not a kiss but closer than we'd ever been. I don't know what happens next, she whispered. Me neither, I said. But neither of us moved away. 2 months later the cafe looked different. New paint on the walls, new baristas behind the counter. I hadn't worked there since the night everything came undone. Some evenings I still walked past, though, and tonight I went in. Julia was at the window table, a hard-cover book in her lap, hair loose around her face. She looked up when the bell jingled. For a moment neither of us moved. Then she smiled, small, unsure, but real. I slid into the seat opposite her. "You still order tea, you never drink," I said. "It's a habit," she replied softly. "Like coming here even when I shouldn't." We sat in a silence that felt different now, less charged, more like two people trying to build something fragile. Outside, the sky was winter clear, no rain tonight. "How's Evan?" I asked. She traced a finger around the rim of her cup. "He's speaking to me again." Slowly. I told him the truth. About us. Not everything, but enough. He needed to hear it from me, not from gossip. "Does he hate me?" I asked. She shook her head. "He's angry. But not at you. Mostly at me. We'll get through it." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "I'm not here to make your life harder." "I know." She tilted her head, studying me. "And yet, somehow, you've made it feel alive again. Even in the mess." I gave a half-smile. "You've made me grow up faster than any job ever could." We both laughed quietly at that. Then she reached across the table, palm up. I set my hand in hers. No hiding, no half-gestures this time. Just contact. Simple, steady. "I don't know where this goes," she said, her thumb brushing my knuckles. "I don't want to be your secret, and I don't want to lose my son. But I also don't want to pretend you don't matter." "I don't need promises," I said. "Just honesty. And a chance." She nodded. "Then we'll try. In the open. Whatever comes." For the first time since that rainy night, the tightness in my chest eased. The cafe buzzed around us, a couple laughing near the counter, a toddler banging a spoon on a table, ordinary life happening while we sat with our fingers intertwined. We didn't kiss. We didn't declare anything dramatic. But when she smiled at me again, I could see the decision had already been made. Not a fairy tale ending, not disaster either. Just two people willing to risk a beginning. Outside the window, the street lights came on, scattering small circles of light across the pavement like tiny invitations. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?